So I guess I wonder, what is the point of this podcast?
The point of Goodnight, New York, I Love You is not an ode to New York. It's not a podcast about New York. It's a podcast about our connection with places. I really feel that my connection with New York, my relationship with New York has changed who I am in a really positive way. And I think that people have had this experience with different places. I want to use this podcast to explore the connections that people have to places. And I want to take it a step further.
Every night as I close the shades to my bedroom window, I look towards the New York skyline and say, "Good night, New York, I love you." It started out as a funny bit, and then a nightly gratitude ritual. But now, Good Night, New York, I Love You is a new podcast about places we love. So this podcast isn't really about New York. It's about any place we love and why we love it. Because just like finding a soulmate, our relationship with places can feel just as powerful. In each new episode, my guest and I will explore what drives that connection with places, but we'll also explore the relationship between love, places, and connection with community. This is Goodnight, New York, I Love You. Hello and welcome to Goodnight, New York, I Love You. I'm your host, Jane Marie. In today's episode, I'm joined by my dear friend, Christian Noojin. He is a creator, luxury experience consultant, and GIA graduate gemologist. We're digging into a place we both love, New York City. Christian and I explore how living in New York as young adults helped transform us into the people we are today. And we also discuss building community in a big city like New York. Christian also tells us about starting over when he moved from New York to Charlotte, North Carolina, and what it taught him about himself. Let's get into it.
Christian, welcome.
Hi!
Tell everyone how we ended up being friends, how we connected.
We're both from Alabama, and we both went to the school together in Birmingham. At the time, I was busy with other people, but Jane was persistent that we should be friends. And so we were. I love a good persistent friend.
And it's funny because I don't remember the moment that we met. I don't remember ever becoming friends with you. I just remember being friends with you.
Right.
Yeah, that's how natural it felt and feels to this day.
Absolutely. I agree. And then our lives are so funny. We kept moving to different cities, but every time getting back together. I was in New York starting in 2015. You moved in 2016. And since then, we were, always just in each other's circles. And I'll tell you what, as far as like a friend goes, it's important to have friends that are trying to hang out with you, that want to see you. Because for me, there's so many times in my life where I didn't want to be around anybody and I just wanted to be a little recluse.
And I forced my way in.
Yeah, and Jane's like, no, we are doing this and you are coming.
So at one point I did set up a weekly dinner for us.
Yeah.
I put that in the calendar. It was a recurring event.
That's hilarious. Did I know about this or was that just your calendar?
I think that I did get your permission. It was very much my persistence.
Yeah. And it turns out it's amazing. Now I'm down in Charlotte. You're here just visiting for the weekend. And now it's been so amazing to grow up as adults together and be able to see each other's growth and be that support system. But even though we're long distance now, I talk to you just as much as I speak with any of the other people that I'm around.
And what I think is so funny is we went so long without seeing each other in person. It had been until this trip, we're in July of 2025. Until this trip, it had been since October of 2023. And I did not feel disconnected from you in that time because we were so intentional about talking on the phone with each other, FaceTiming, texting, staying connected in a lot of different ways thanks to technology.
Right.
And so when we saw each other, it felt completely natural. It didn't feel like we had to catch up.
Sure. Yeah. No time had passed at all. Absolutely. I agree. Because we're also in sync. We know what's going on with each other. So amazing. And today is a special day because you passed your PMP exam.
I passed my project management professional certification exam.
And so good now because you're done with your exam that you can move into your new creative things. One of them being this podcast.
Good Night, New York, I Love You.
Good Night, New York, I Love You.
Yeah. Good Night, New York, I Love You.
So what is that?
Good Night, New York, I Love You came from a funny bit that I started poking fun of myself being single in New York. I moved to New York in 2015. I am celebrating my 10-year anniversary with New York this July. And I still remember the day I moved in. Christian was there the day I moved in.
Yeah.
Came over within hours after the movers left.
Yes, and ordered fans. We were in this apartment on the Upper West
It's
Side.
the hottest day of the year.
It was so hot. And I think Amazon Now had just launched that summer or something. And I was like, oh, no, no, no. We're getting fans in this place. We're getting some AC going. That was
I have a
unbelievable.
distinct memory of you seeing me unpack my hairdryer and saying, does that have a cool setting? And I said, yes. And you plugged it in and you sat there on my bed, cooling yourself and periodically cooling me as I unpacked.
Anything can be a personal fan.
Anything. But yeah, so I have lived in New York 10 years, and in 2020, I moved into my first apartment by myself. And it was a really lucky thing, if you believe in luck. I don't know that I believe in luck. I believe in divine timing and guidance and all of these things. But I moved into this apartment. It was a lottery apartment. And so it was way nicer than what I could have afforded on the fair market value. I look at the Williamsburg Bridge from my apartment, and it's my first apartment by myself. I'm so excited. I sit down on the couch after the movers leave, and I am looking out at the Williamsburg Bridge, and I just start laughing to myself.
Yeah, it's surreal.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, I feel like the luckiest person in the world, and I never want to take this feeling for granted. I never want to be one of those people that sees something in front of me day after day after day and becomes numb to the greatness of that thing or the awe that I used to feel when I first saw it. So I made this promise to myself, I'm never going to take this for granted. I'm never going to take this apartment for granted, this view for granted, this moment and this place where I am. And as time went on in this apartment, I decided that I was going to get custom shades for my apartment that go down with a remote. They go up and down. So from my bed, I can control them and I can see the bridge or I can go to sleep. And it is definitely the best purchase I've ever made for my apartment. But I made this bit and I said every night when I go to sleep, I press the curtains and I say, good night, New York, I love you. And as the curtains are going down, I'm saying goodnight to the city that represents my longest term relationship. It was a joke at first. Oh, I don't have a partner to say goodnight to. So I'm not turning to a person in bed to say goodnight. I'm turning to New York to say, goodnight, New York, I love you. It's like the Waltons, but New York.
Yeah.
But over time, it turned into a really special gratitude practice. And it's a little ritual that I've made for myself to always keep in mind and in my body that feeling that I felt sitting on the couch looking at the view on my first day in the apartment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really funny that you call it a relationship with New York.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I am fascinated by thinking about soulmate connections. I think this idea of a soulmate, it becomes controversial because people think, oh, are soulmates real? I don't believe in soulmates. I think you can have many soulmates. I looked it up in the dictionary, in your basic dictionary. And a soulmate definition is actually based on reciprocity, mutual affection, and understanding. According to that definition, I have many soulmates.
Mm-hmm.
And I've recognized this throughout my life, that it's not I'm looking for my one romantic soulmate. I have found platonic soulmates. And then I started thinking about how connected I am to certain places, like New York.
Right.
I feel like my connection with New York is beyond a connection, and it is a full-blown relationship because that definition of soulmates based on reciprocity, that means that I get something back from New York and then I give something to it. We're working together and we have this mutual relationship. We're giving and taking. To me, that's what I mean when I say a relationship with this place.
Right. And so it is like being with another person, like you said, platonic or romantic. And that's so funny because I had not framed it that way, but you're so right, because all these places shape who we are, just like a relationship would. So I guess I wonder, like, what is the point of this podcast?
The point of Goodnight, New York, I Love You is not an ode to New York. It's not a podcast about New York. It's a podcast about our connection with places. It's a podcast about how we can explore this mutual relationship you have with a place of the give and take. I live in a place, I give to the community, I give maybe to the actual physical places there, but I'm getting something back in return. I really feel that my connection with New York, my relationship with New York has changed who I am in a really positive way. And I think that people have had this experience with different places. I want to use this podcast to explore the connections that people have to places. And I want to take it a step further. I want this to be a relationship podcast, but using the exploration of places that we love to teach us about how we connect with communities,
Right.
how we can connect with other people. We're in the middle of a loneliness epidemic. Despite how technology connects us, we have higher rates of loneliness and isolation reported today than ever before. The US Surgeon General said it's an epidemic. So what do we do then? I want to treat this space as an exploration of antidotes to loneliness,
Sure.
using place and how we love places to explore that.
That's beautiful. And it's concrete. It's something that you can really activate on and not just think about. It is about, is it travel or is it moving or is it your community in these places?
And that's the thing, we can be connected to so many different places at once. Being from Alabama, I feel really connected to that place because of my family and my ancestry and my roots.
Right.
And at the same time, I also feel drawn and connected to a place that's far from Alabama. And I have to deal with that tension between loving New York and loving Alabama and deciding how is that going to play out in my life. And I think that's a really important part of this podcast too, is recognizing that there's not just one place we're going to have a relationship with, and there's a lot of tension. And I don't know if love hate is the right phrase, but there's a lot of back and forth, highs and lows, ups and downs that come with any relationship, particularly relationships that you have with places.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Great. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So I want to start by asking you, Christian, to tell me about a place that you love.
Oh, I'll tell you, one of my favorite places in the world that I've lived is New York City.
Amen.
How about
Same.
that? I don't live in New York anymore. I'm down in Charlotte, North Carolina, a place that I am learning to love just as much. But I've only been here for a year. I was in New York for 8 years. And it was just the most incredible love affair of my life. Yeah. I'm going to cry.
Oh my God, it is so emotional because this is the whole point, is that
Right.
we want to explore how the connection shapes who we are.
Right.
The connection to a place is shaping who we've become. I feel that about New York. And it's why I want to invite people here and hear about the places that have impacted them.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, what do you love about New York?
Oh, man. The energy of New York is unbelievable. Now, let's talk about it scientific. I'm a graduate gemologist.
Okay.
I love rocks. I love diamonds and
Yep.
gemstones. New York is built on a very specific Paleolithic crystal structure. Did you know this?
I didn't know this. I'm so excited to be learning.
I don't have all the details, but what I'll tell you is that when you go into Central Park and you see the big rocks that are
Right.
there, and you see the glitter in the rocks, right? This mica, this sort of like aggregate of these minerals, it does hold a very specific energy. I've always said when my feet hit the ground in New York, I just feel energized. I feel charged up. I feel like so motivated to get going. I think that's what a lot of people do experience, whether they understand that or not, because there is an energy to the city.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about the millions of people that live there. Of course, that human interaction can be energizing in a way, but it could also be really draining to some people. But I think, period, if you stand in Manhattan, you just feel an energy around you and in the aura of the city. Of course, like I think my first visit to New York was when I was in middle school with a school trip. And so tiny then, the pictures of me are like this little person looking up these huge buildings. I have so many funny pictures of just looking at a skyscraper straight out of Mobile. I'd never been anywhere but Mobile at that point in my life. And just feeling like the gravity of the city and how big it is and how many people are there was super exciting to me because growing up in a small town, well, and Mobile's not small, it's one of the largest cities in Alabama.
Right.
But in comparison to Manhattan, it is very small.
Right.
And so growing up that way and then being transplanted into the city where everything is big and there's a million opportunities with so many people who you don't know yet that you could meet that could change your life in so many different ways. It's so exciting and in a way addictive. You're like, I gotta chase this high all the time.
It's funny that you bring up a school trip as your first experience because that was my first experience with New York too. It wasn't a school trip, it was a choir tour with my youth group.
Wow.
In Alabama. I would say I'm more globally minded now. I've traveled a lot to 21 countries. I've traveled to almost half the states in the US. At this point, I had not traveled that much. And I was admittedly ethnocentric, which is just thinking that your culture is better than other people's. And so I go to New York and I'm in this religious environment. And I remember looking around and having this similar experience even before I got to the place where I recognized, oh, I want to live in a big city. That hadn't even happened. But I remember looking around and having this conversation with some of the people on the trip of, oh, would you ever live here? And in that moment, I said yes. It's funny to me that something inside me recognized that New York, I saw myself in New York. And I said at that time, I think I was 17, I said, oh, I could probably live here for a year or two.
That's so hilarious.
And it's hilarious because at that time in my life, I couldn't imagine leaving Alabama. I couldn't imagine leaving my family and being so far from them. And yet I still had that reaction.
Yeah. And you know what's funny? I had a different viewpoint. I knew I wanted to leave Mobile. I didn't care about any of that. And all of my friends too on this trip were like, oh, you're going to be back here one day. And I was like, hell yeah, I am.
And how validating.
How validating.
For other people to see that in you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was always my experience. When I moved to New York, everyone was thrilled for me. And I had so much support from my hometown. And at the same time, I probably didn't appreciate it as much as I could have. I was like, okay, yeah, thanks. I'm going. See y'all. Y'all. That word is snuck back into the vocabulary.
New Yorkers say y'all too, they just say it with a different accent.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess that's true. It turned out once we graduated from college, then I moved to New York within 6 months of finishing school. And it was crazy. We didn't have a place to live. I moved with my roommate who had also gone to school with us. And
I remember that apartment. You lived in basically a closet.
The Lower East Side. It was a, quote, 2-bedroom. It was absolutely a studio that they put walls in. We paid a ton of money for that apartment for what it was, but the location was incredible. We were on the Lower East Side between Rivington and Stanton on Clinton Street. And it was an incredible time to experience that neighborhood because it was a place that had so many bars and restaurants, historic music venues, historic cafes where people had written important poems and novels, where Lady Gaga had stomped around in the decades prior to me being there. And I'm seeing all the inspiration all around me. And as we lived there, a building across the street took over the sun on the street. It got bigger and bigger. And there was a Jewish synagogue and bakery on the opposite corner of our apartment block that is no longer there. And so you're seeing this kind of change in culture in New York, but in the same way that, you know how people use the phrase, the king is dead, long live the king? There's always a king, and the king is always New York. It's just recreating itself constantly. And I really did find that inspirational to say, just because this is over doesn't mean that you're over. You know?
Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, wait. My uncle lived in New York for 29 years.
Yeah.
And when I moved to New York, he was an anchor in my life because I had a family member there and he taught me so much. And I hate to imagine what it would have been like without him. But we laugh all the time at the Sex and the City episode where they're at the party, season 6. And this woman is so mad that she's almost 40 and she's trying to party and nobody is partying with her. And she leans against the window and she says, New York is over. O-V-E-R. Over. I'm so bored I could die. And then she falls out of the window.
And dies.
And it is so harrowing and funny at
Yeah.
the same time, but it is a perfect illustration of exactly what you're saying. That there's always going to be people who say, oh, New York is over, New York is dead, New York has changed. Of course it's changed. Because in this world, if you don't change, you die.
Yeah. Yeah. And New York hasn't died yet. We both lived through the pandemic in New York. And of course, things changed. So many restaurants closed and so many social opportunities went to a halt. I was in real estate at the time. I stopped doing real estate. I didn't enjoy the virtual aspect of it. I really loved meeting people and showing them physical places because I love the city.
Yeah.
And without being able to do that, I lost the joy in that part. Yeah. But at the same time, New York was still very special. Yeah. And we had very special things happening during the pandemic, including the protests for Black Lives Matter and the cheering at 7 p.m. every day. Everyone would open their windows and cheer for the healthcare workers that were changing shifts. And that was a totally unique experience for the city. Also, at first, it can just feel like a million people or 8 million people on the island of Manhattan. But as you move through the years in New York, you do see patterns and you see the same people and you do build community and family where maybe where I was shy when I moved to New York, I was really learning to meet my neighbors in the neighborhood. We would sit on the stoop and have conversations with each other just outside. And I made incredible relationships with so many interesting people who had been there for much longer than I had so much wisdom to share. I had my dog Jerome with me, and everyone, of course, wanted to meet him as we were walking on the street. So what seems like a place that does not have community, that seems like so many people are there, is really rich in it. You do have to make eye contact and you do have to lean in.
You have to try. I don't want to say that you have to try harder than other places because it is an effort no matter where you are. But New York has a specific way of being, and you have to be intentional about making these friendships and relationships and building your own community. And you have to be okay with it changing. Going back to this idea of change, having lived in New York 10 years, my friend groups have changed a lot. I think some of that is resonant with just being an adult and going through different life stages and people come in and out of your life. That just happens. I also think that living in a place that big that has so many people coming in and out naturally, it's exacerbated. And I have gotten to a place more recently where most of my closest friends that I have the longest history with no longer live in New York.
Right.
And it's challenging because I'm not back at square one at all. I have a starting place, but I do have to still put in that effort and intentionality to build community, to form relationships, to fight the same loneliness and isolation that I was talking about, because it can happen to anyone.
Oh, totally. And you can be totally anonymous in New York.
It's a joy, and there's a flip side to the coin.
Yeah.
The first time I went out to eat by myself in New York, and I know it sounds silly to say, oh, the first time I went out to eat by myself, but growing up in Alabama, I never did that. In fact, I would go to a restaurant, if I saw someone eating by themselves, I would pity them. I would think, oh, how sad they don't have anyone to eat with.
Right.
And the first time I did it in New York, where I brought a book and I ate at the restaurant by myself, it was liberating.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, wait, this was actually really cool because no one knows me here. No one's making a judgment about me sitting by myself. I just am existing here. I'm in my own world. I'm in my own space. And it felt very freeing. So the anonymity can be liberating also.
Yeah, I agree. And on the other side of that, though, is that you can just hole up in your apartment. You can go to and from work and not connect with anybody too. Because if you're not making time for people, they're certainly not making time for you. New York is a fast-moving place. Yep. And you really do have to be intentional with your relationships. And but it teaches you that too. Yeah. Because now that I live in Charlotte, back in the South, which I love Charlotte, it is such a middle ground between New York and all the people moving there all the time, but it's also still Southern and it holds on to its Southern identity, which has been awesome for me because I've forever struggled with being a Southerner, being a gay man from the South. You're not necessarily proud of that all the time.
Right.
But now that I'm back in Charlotte, I am finding all of these traditions that are so uniquely Southern that I really can enjoy now without having to feel like people are judging me for being from the South or any of that sort of negativity that comes from our region. Charlotte's been amazing for that, but I don't think that I would have done as well here connecting with people, making friend groups, and finding my community without all that New York experience where it really was more of a hustle to do all of that.
Right.
But New York, I've always said, definitely reminds you who you are. It will also humble you often,
Yeah.
but it does it for everybody. And so it's not like New York doesn't stick to an individual. It's just that it gives you chance after chance to really figure out who you are and to sink or swim in a way.
Yeah.
But if you sink, there's another opportunity around the corner. New York is limitless in terms of the opportunities that it will give you to
That's
succeed.
true. And what I always tell people who are thinking about moving away, whether it's New York or somewhere else, I always say, oh, New York will still be here.
New York will always
New
be
York
here.
will always be here. So if you need to try something else and
Mhm.
come back, New York will always be here. And I had to think the same way when I moved away from Alabama. I can always move back, and getting over the perceived shame of having to move back home, I think is another thing I dealt with in my 20s of feeling like I have to make it on my own.
Right.
And I don't feel that way anymore. I actually spend a lot of time with my family, and it makes my relationship with New York, going back to this relationship piece, I feel like my relationship with New York is really sustainable because I leave the city a lot.
Yeah.
People say, oh, I'm bi-coastal between East Coast and West Coast. I feel like I have this bi-state relationship between New York and Alabama because I do spend a lot of time in Alabama with my family, my nieces, my nephew, my sisters, my parents. That makes it really possible for me to take a step back, get my space, and then coming back is that much sweeter.
Let's just go on a tangent with that
Let's
for
go
a
on a
moment.
tangent.
That thought that you had of leaving a city, leaving a job, leaving a relationship, in your head being fearful of that as being seen as a failure is so put on by other people, your nasty little voice in your brain. Moving away or changing your life is never a failure. Every time that I have left a relationship or left a city or a job or a friend group that no longer served me, I have flourished over and over again. Now it feels like I am this huge wisdom tree or something. Whereas before, you just feel so small in those certain situations because they're beating you down, they're taking your self-confidence, and you're becoming insecure. But the truth is, if you feel like you need to make a change and it's going to make your life better, then you have to do it.
There's a lot of courage that's required to decide this relationship isn't for me anymore. We talk about this in relationships with people all the time, but it applies to places too. Sometimes we outgrow places.
Yeah.
Our relationship to the place changes. Have you ever fallen out of love with a place?
Oh my God, yeah. And as deeply as I've fallen in love with it, I left New York, I guess,
I think it was
2022. And so I had lived like my formative years in my 20s. I lived through the pandemic there. I didn't go home to see anybody during the pandemic. I stayed put in the apartment with my animals.
Which was a totally, for people who stayed in New York during the pandemic in your apartment, what a different experience for the pandemic than people who had another place to go to, had family to be with. Because it's not just about the physical place, it's also about your proximity to other people.
Yeah.
You're right next to other people, but you're not supposed to be near them.
Right. Of course, I have my family in Mobile. I have my family in Chattanooga, who both have plenty of space. I had the opportunity to leave, but I love New York City.
Right.
And couldn't imagine myself supporting another city during this time or being away from my home then. And I took the opportunity to go to school and get my diploma
Gemologist.
and graduate gemology and do another career opportunity through that. I made it through the pandemic, and that was an incredible time to be there for me, and not incredible in a super positive way, but just incredible in the vastness of it, how much life I lived during that time. And then I went straight into another big job. And I was sitting in that workplace one day. It was so intense, my new job was, and we had just lived through the pandemic. And I'd gotten a taste of what it was like not to work like that, not to hustle so hard, or to not be so job focused for the first time. We're both Capricorns too.
Yeah.
So we do love,
We love to work,
career and
we
money.
love to achieve.
Yeah,
But what it's about at its core is not about the work itself, it's about security.
totally. Right. And about structure.
And about structure, and about achievement,
Right.
being successful.
Right. And so I'm sitting at this job post pandemic, and every day is really hard. I'm waking up first thing in the morning, running downstairs to take my dog out. I can't just open him to a yard so he can run around. Like, you're going on a physical walk. Anytime you want to do laundry, you're carrying it down the street. The food is expensive. If you're going to try to meet friends out, it is an expensive meal, pretty much across the board. Because in pre-pandemic times, it was not always that way. You could find affordable meals, and you could go to some place and have a great, huge meal for not that much money. Now it's not really that way.
It's not that way.
But right now, it wasn't that. And so everything was really hard. My job was really hard. It was really stressful. And I remember thinking, like, I'm going to die here, being so stressed out. And is this what it is? I have a brother who's an outdoorsman. He's a professional fisherman and lived on a farm outside of Chattanooga. And gosh, part of me was just like, that is also life. Just because he's not living in New York and doing all the fabulous things I'm doing and meeting all of the incredible people, it doesn't mean that lifestyle is not also valid. And so I'm thinking, maybe I just need a break. New York really handed it to me in that way. I was so stressed out, and it got a little dicey there. So I popped off and I left, went back to Mobile to be with my parents for a while. I don't know if I was ever really in love with Mobile in the first place. And so to go back was like going back to some toxic ex that was still not good for me.
And when you go back to the place that you're from, if you've spent time away and you get dropped back in, it's almost like going back to old family dynamics that you grew up with. It's this idea of this dynamic used to be this way, and so I'm slipping back into it, but it doesn't feel right anymore.
Right.
And now I don't know how to balance that.
Right. Totally. So I left there, moved to Chattanooga, and then to here. But now when I think about New York, it is still so romantic to me.
Yeah.
Of course I want to go back, and I'm not sure if I want to live there anymore. And that is the biggest shift in me. I love New York. I appreciate it so much. I love the people in New York and all my friends and family that are there. And of course I miss them. And I think now that is mostly why I would want to go back, is because of the relationships that I built. But I am no longer yearning for this like mountain climb of success in the big city, trying to be the next big thing, because that doesn't matter to me anymore. It really used to matter to me a lot. But now I just crave peace, and I crave being in a place that I feel most myself, which I think New York taught me who that was. It's not like I'm divorcing myself from that person. I am that person. It's just that now,
it helped you evolve.
Yeah, I'm an evolution of that. Yeah. And now, even though I have fallen out of love with New York, in a way, there is still great love for New York and the people there and my experiences. My memories are just fabulous. The stories that I can tell are so unique to me, but everyone in New York can tell stories like that.
We talked about Sex and the City earlier. It's why Sex and the City is so popular even today, because it resonates with people. Because the writers, fun fact, every storyline that they wrote had to be based on a real story, something happened in real life to someone that at least the writers knew.
Oh,
it was like, oh, I heard this story from so-and-so. It had to be something that actually happened.
Wow.
But I think that goes to your point of, we've all had these different experiences in New York that shaped who we are today.
Right. Absolutely.
And to go back to this relationship piece, we're talking a lot about how our relationship with this place, with New York, and you can fill in the blank, my relationship with has changed me because it helped me understand who I am. It helped me understand my sense of self, grow into myself. It helped me with my esteem of myself, be more confident, to maybe realize some kind of gifts or talents that you have. I think that is a motivation for a lot of people. It's the appeal of New York in a way. The anonymity of being able to be in this place, to be whoever you want to be able to push the limits, and to know, and this is how I've always felt, that if I'm walking down the street and I feel like I'm pushing the boundary a little, there's always someone else pushing it further.
Yeah.
So that gives me a level of comfortability with experimentation. And I think that experimentation is what was so life-changing for me in my time in New York.
Totally. Yeah, because it does. It is a laboratory for you to create who that person is that you want to be. And anytime I feel that you move to a new place, especially if you don't know anyone there, you really do turn into like the purest version of who you are, because it's all that you can express. You're not being influenced by people who know you and have all this back history or expectation and things you have to do. No, you don't. You have to do what serves you. And it's amazing.
We were having lunch earlier, you were telling me that what you loved about Charlotte is a similar thing. You came here, you felt that same sense of freedom and experimentation of, I can be whoever I want to be. It's a new city, it's a new beginning. And I think we can have that kind of relationship with any place,
right,
if we understand that a place can be a vessel. New York or any place can be the vessel for you to experience the change needed for you to evolve into that version of yourself, to evolve into who you're meant to be. We want to use that kind of cliche, but that's how I have felt in New York, and it's why I wanted this gratitude practice too of Goodnight, New York, I love you, because wow, who would I be today if I hadn't had that experience?
Totally.
Yeah. Christian, we've talked a lot about the tension of places we love with New York, of loving this place and then maybe outgrowing that place, going somewhere else, trying something new. But let's go back to your love for New York. We talked about how you love New York. Tell me your ideal day in New York. Describe your ideal day for me. It can be short, but what does it look like? Walk us through it.
For New York, to me, when I moved there, I went for musical theater.
Yeah.
So I have a passion for theater and for the shows and the productions in New York City. They are top tier. The people that are working there, even the ones that are not getting paid yet, are just the most genius minds ever. So that's one love of New York. While I was doing all that, though, I started working in restaurants. And the hospitality culture in New York really did remind me a lot of the hospitality that you find in homes in the South, and how people treat you when you walk into the space. So my perfect day would definitely be some sort of combination of hitting all those events. My most recent apartment was on the Upper East Side. It's such a neighborhood thing. I'd probably take my neighbor Betsy around the corner to who, by the way, Betsy is this 70-something-year-old dancer. She moved to New York in the 80s, so New York, and lived her like dance fantasy, and she still is teaching dance now.
Wow.
And that's one of those connections that I really love so much. And it's so random that I would live right next door to her and that we would connect. But I certainly would go to coffee and pastries with her around the corner at our favorite little French cafe.
Sounds like a great start to the day.
Absolutely. And then I would probably make my way over to the Met Museum, which is so close. And one of those things that you really don't understand. On one visit, it's not enough. You could go to the Met every single day for a year and find something to get into.
Huge.
It's huge. And the geniuses that work at the Met have so much to share as well. So I would support the Met. You have to. You can pay what you can if you're in New York, but you could pay them more too. You could pay as much as you want. Go to the Met, stop off in Central Park, which is also vast. You could never see all of Central Park.
Yeah.
You can get lost in there for hours, but we only have one day, right?
We have one day.
So
what are we at noon?
We're at noon. We're easily out 2 p.m.
Yeah, maybe.
I love the Upper West Side as well, to get to meet some friends for coffee or lunch. Yeah.
We'll end up on the Upper West Side.
End up on the Upper West, and then take the train downtown. I would do a pre-theater dinner somewhere in the West Village or near Washington Square Park. because then you get all the students, you get all of these incredible artists down there as well that are so different from the theater artists that are in Midtown.
And the energy is different in every neighborhood in New York.
Absolutely. And I would eat some incredible chef's food sitting next to some celebrity.
Yeah.
There's always someone there.
Yeah.
And then I would head back uptown to Midtown and see a show. I'd probably see Oh Mary right
Oh
now.
my gosh.
Titus Burgess
Titus
is in it right
Burgess.
now.
I met Titus Burgess at a wine shop in Harlem that was around the corner from my apartment, my first apartment in New York.
Yes.
Because he had just filmed Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt and had
Yes.
that Pinot Noir song.
Yeah.
So he created a Pinot Noir.
Yeah. You have celebrity stories like that because New York is like that.
New York is like that.
You know, and so I would see a show. I think that Oh Mary you can actually see before another show. They show earlier and it's short, so I'd probably do a double feature.
Love.
And then post dinner, I'm going downtown to meet my friends. Like we're going out and probably somewhere in the East Village.
Yeah.
I love the gay clubs in the East Village. They are, from what I remember growing up and then what I imagine a gay club to be, the East Village is that.
Yeah.
And so it's nostalgic, it's perfect. And then I would crawl back to my apartment. And that's like 5 things to do, but New York is like that. You will experience that whole day and it goes in a flash, but it would be perfect.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love hearing about people's ideal days and then taking from it the pieces that sound fun. I want to try that too.
Totally.
Christian, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me. It has been a pleasure.
What a pleasure.
I am so happy that New York helped turn us into the people that we are today and the friends that we are today.
Absolutely.
So New York was the vessel for our friendship too.
Listen, we've got the stories to prove it.
Amen.
Anyway, I love you.
Love you.
Didn't you love hearing from Christian? You can follow Christian on Instagram and TikTok under the username @Christian.Noojin. Each episode, I'll be interviewing a new guest, exploring the connection they have to a new place. Follow for more, and I'll see you next time on Goodnight, New York. I love you.